Welcome back. Let's continue. We've seen the candidacy of Prince Leopold of Prussia. His candidacy for the Spanish throne has been blocked by France. France putting pressure on both the Spanish and the Prussians to withdraw this candidacy. France appears to have won a great diplomatic victory here. We'll see that this is an illusion. As I said earlier, the French foreign minister had overplayed his hand by demanding a letter of apology for sort of stirring up this trouble to begin with. And the Prussian king had no intentions of apologizing. Bismarck received an account of this incident from the Prussian king, and he edited the letter and then released it to the press. He edited the letter to make it look as if the Prussian king had been harsh and aggressive in his refusal to write such a letter of apology. And then, like politicians do today, he released it to the press. And of course, the press published this letter, which made the French look weak and humiliated. The way Bismarck had edited the letter made it appear that French diplomats had been cowed by the Prussian king. And this was not the impression that Louis Napoleon wanted. Bismarck was fully aware of the risk he was taking, but he evidently believed that a peaceful settlement of this problem was beyond reach. Bismarck had already arranged for the neutrality of Russia and to keep Austria uninvolved. Bismarck had military alliances with the states of southern Germany, those small, weak duchies and principalities that we had talked about. The Prussian generals assured Bismarck that the Prussian army was ready. So, diplomatically and militarily, Prussia was ready for war. But Bismarck remained cautious, and he waited for France to make the decisive mistake. Now, in France, some people voiced caution about any war with Prussia, but Louis Napoleon vacillated. He lacked confidence in the French army, and he feared a long and inconclusive war. But French public opinion was clamoring for war, to assert French power, to put down this Prussian upstart. Some declared that the French Empire would not survive if it accepted this latest humiliation from Prussia, this edited letter that Bismarck had released to the press. French military leaders were confident of victory. On July 15, 1870, France declared war on Prussia. Quote, "We go to war with a light heart," said the French prime minister. The Prussian army surpassed the French army in organization, leadership, mobility. The rapid advance of Prussian forces through these southern German states prevented these small German states from remaining neutral or even going against Bismarck's strategy. And of course, by moving through these South German states, the Prussian army was able to fight the war on French territory instead of the war being fought on German territory. Large French army was broken at Sedan in 1870. The emperor was present with the French army and was captured. That is, the emperor, Louis Napoleon III, was captured. The collapse of the empire didn't mean the end of the war. Another French army held out for some time, but it too was finally reduced. The French continued to fight because they hoped that maybe foreign intervention would take place. Maybe Great Britain or Austria or Russia would intervene on France's behalf. But Bismarck's diplomacy had negated those possibilities. So France remained alone. Now, let's look at the consequences of this Franco-Prussian War. Toward the end of the war, the Russians began to realize that a united Germany could be a bigger threat to Russia than France ever was. But it was too little and too late. Russian neutrality had been secured by Bismarck's diplomacy. And of course, the British, on the other hand, had for centuries regarded France as the chief threat to the peace of Europe. Bismarck reinforced this impression by releasing Napoleon's demands for Belgian territory to the London Times. These were published in 1870. This, of course, frightened the British because it demonstrated French ambitions to dominate. Finally, the peace between Prussia and France is signed in 1871 at Frankfurt. France was compelled to give up Alsace and parts of Lorraine. These are two provinces on the eastern frontier of France. They sort of lie between France and Germany. And we'll see these two provinces kind of as a tennis ball get batted back and forth between France and Russia during this time period. France also had to pay an indemnity of 5 billion francs to the new German Empire. France had to support a German army of occupation until this indemnity was paid. And then the ultimate humiliation for France. On January 18th, 1871, shortly before the war came to an end, King William I of Prussia was proclaimed the German emperor, the Kaiser. Kaiser, of course, is a derivation of the old Roman Caesar. This coronation took place in the Hall of Mirrors at the Versailles Palace outside of Paris, an especially humiliating moment for the French. The French defeat, the establishment of the German Empire, the loss of Alsace and Lorraine created a hatred between France and Germany that would last until after the Second World War in the middle of the 20th century. With respect to Alsace and Lorraine, Bismarck had German public opinion to contend with, as well as French public opinion. And some have pointed to the German annexation of these two provinces as a diplomatic mistake on Bismarck's part. Others have argued that Bismarck probably regarded or considered that the real reason for future French hostility would not be the loss of territory, but the fact of defeat itself and the creation of a German empire that would represent a constant threat to French security. So, as a result of this Franco-Prussian War, the French lost their position as the dominant power in Europe. They lost political prestige, and estimations of their military power would also be diminished. So now you have, in conclusion, Bismarck, through these small local wars with Austria and with France, he's now able to cobble together all these small German kingdoms and principalities into a large, very powerful, very dynamic German empire. The creation of this new German state in the heart of Europe is going to be very destabilizing. It's going to drive, in time, France and Russia together in an alliance because of their mutual fear of Germany, which lay between them. And then in time, it will also drive Great Britain, France's traditional enemy, into the arms of Paris because of the British fear of Germany's ambitions. This, of course, will set the stage for the Great War that will begin in 1914. Now, in our next lecture, I want to talk about this new German Empire and Bismarck's diplomacy after the creation of a unified Germany. Thank you.